This is a 10-minute synopsis of the third and final book of Dante's Commedia. It'll be a good recap if you've read it already, and a good roadmap if you haven't. Who wouldn't want a roadmap to heaven? When Dante reached the very bottom of the Inferno, he found the enormous, pathetic beast Lucifer, stuck waist-deep in ice, chewing on sinners, unable to speak. It was a shocking letdown. After so many suave and elegant sinners, so quick to deceive and mislead us, only to find Lucifer so profoundly disappointing and hairy. God, hairy? I don't think that's the case in Paradiso with the final vision, the divine vision. I'm sure there's less hair involved, but you'll have to be the judge of just how fulfilling the vision is. I think the Paradiso was Dante's most difficult challenge. In the Inferno, he invented magnificent and horrifying characters with enthralling stories. It's the most read book of the three by far. That is, it's the book that is most widely read by far. Many people stop after the Inferno. In Purgatorio, he came up with some pretty ghastly suffering, always for a higher purpose, of course. And he climbed a daunting mountain with a ring of flame at the top. It was dramatic, it was suspenseful, it was everything you want. According to doctrine, paradise is the state of eternal communion with God. Perfect rest, perfect love, perfect knowledge. For Thomas Aquinas and others, it meant participating in God through the beatific vision. In essence, watching God. Now, that's surely an excellent fate, and far be it from me to criticize it. But it doesn't make for an interesting story, much less for a culmination of this dramatic and enthralling yarn that Dante has been spinning. How can it even be a narrative, you might ask, which needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Paradise is eternal, unchanging, and it all takes place in the mind of God. Watching how Dante navigates these challenges is part of what makes reading the Paradiso so compelling. He'll devise some ways to make souls more blessed than others. He'll concoct a system whereby the pilgrim meets souls at the planet that's associated with their personality. So you've got astrological influence here in a Christian paradise. He'll imagine souls at first translucent like water, then forming together like fireflies or fireworks, a light show that gets more and more unbelievable and outrageous with each canto, souls that form shapes together like synchronized swimmers, a giant eagle, a cross, a ladder. In the prima mobile, the penultimate sphere, he sees a vast revolving wheel of flame made of angels. Finally, in the Empyrean, in the mind of God, which is also a rose, which is also an amphitheater, like the Colosseum, but the seats are also all like mirrors, reflecting back God's greatness, he will experience the divine vision. It will blow your mind. The pilgrim's pity was tested in the Inferno. His stamina and his commitment were tested in the Purgatorio, and his intellect and faith are tested in the Paradiso. You can expect an intellectual challenge here because Dante the poet wants to face the hardest questions, and he wants to take on the deepest mysteries. What is justice? What is faith? How does reason work? How does doubt work? You might say, doubt in heaven? We're in heaven. There's no more room for doubt. But doubt for Dante is everywhere. Dante says wonderfully that doubt springs like a new shoot from the root of truth. It's a marvelous metaphor. Truth isn't finished when it flowers. Doubt doesn't wither the plant or threaten its health. Doubt springs from truth. It is relieved by truth, which then produces more doubt. That is the beautiful kind of ecology of the mind. The Paradiso begins back in the earthly paradise, in Eden, where Purgatorio left off, with Beatrice taking over as Dante's guide after Virgil's shocking disappearance. In a wonderful narrative moment, Dante realizes that he is floating. They have, without his even realizing it, begun to ascend, lifted off, and are moving not at the speed of light, but at the speed of thought. Dante actually says it takes less time to get places than it takes to think of them. He divides the trip through the heavens into 9 separate visits. 7 planetary spheres, the fixed stars afterwards, or the home of the zodiac, and then finally the primum mobile, or first mover. Remember, the Ptolemaic system, which was still widely held in the 14th century, puts the earth at the center of the universe, and Lucifer is the farthest from God at the center of earth. So as we get farther out, we grow closer to God. What does this mean for the heavenly spheres? Well, the first 3 are devoted to souls who were in some way deficient in their exercise of virtue. They were inconstant, ambitious, intemperate. Here we meet, for instance, the magnificent Picarda Donati, who gave her life to God when she joined a convent, but later got married when her awful brother, notorious Corso Donati, had her forcibly removed from the convent and married for political purposes. So she is among the virtuous who have broken their vows. Not her fault, you say? So do many others, and we'll talk more about this particular crux and interpretive problem. Most important, though, is that she, like everyone else in heaven, is fulfilled to the utmost extent of her capacity for fulfillment. You might think of it as the equivalent of a gas tank and a gauge. Different automobiles have different size tanks, but the gauge pertains to your tank alone. Everyone has a happiness gauge. All of those gauges are on full once you get to heaven, even if the tanks themselves differ. The next 4 heavenly spheres, beginning with the sun, are all associated with perfections of some virtue. The wise, the holy warriors, the just rulers, the contemplatives. In the circle of the sun, for instance, Dante meets 2 great theologians whom he had studied in Florence, the Dominican friar Thomas Aquinas and his Franciscan counterpart, Saint Bonaventure. The Dominicans and the Franciscans were 2 religious mendicant orders that by Dante's time came to stand for different principles and were in many ways opposed. The Dominicans emphasized doctrine and learning, the Franciscans poverty and faith. There were, in fact, major Dominican and Franciscan centers in Florence in Dante's time, at Santa Maria Novella in the west of the city, and at Santa Croce in the east. The fixed stars, by which Dante means that circle that contains the constellations of the zodiac, are devoted to faith, hope, and love, the 3 cardinal virtues. And here the pilgrim takes an oral exam on these subjects, given by St. Peter, St. James, and St. John. The 9th sphere, the one beyond that exam, is the primum mobile, which is Latin for first mover or the first moving thing, though the idea comes from the Greek of Aristotle once again. That is the fiery wheel of angels that I told you about. This is the engine of the universe. In some ways it churns, and its movement turns the spheres. The spheres affect our lives and all other movement on the planet, though we're not determined by that movement, only affected by it. Beyond that is the Empyrean, which is the abode of God. We can't really say beyond because it's outside of time and place, but in reality, Beatrice tells us, this is where all the souls actually are. They just appeared in the planetary spheres for Dante's sake, a one-time performance, if you will. Get your tickets now. Don't be late. So the pilgrim here sees what he calls the heavenly court, or the sacred city. It's a vast yellow rose with the blessed souls arranged in very deliberate order as petals around the center of the rose or amphitheater. Beatrice leaves Dante. We have a surprise special guest here, a 3rd guide, wholly unexpected, the great mystic writer and Cistercian monk Bernard of Clairvaux. The final vision, of course, is what Dante sees with the help of his new guide in the center of that rose. It's a vision of God, and he takes as much time describing his struggles and his failures to see it as he does describing the vision itself. And the final canto is a masterpiece in this regard. You've really got to spend some time marveling at it. Go ahead, skip to it now. Read the end first before the beginning, and then read it again halfway through. The pilgrim gains and surrenders and regains his ability to see until finally, gazing upon three interlocking circles, the symbolic representation of the Trinity, he is caught up in their movement and becomes one with them. He says, like a wheel moving uniformly with the love that moves the sun and the other stars. The last word of this canto is stars, stelle, which in fact has been the final word of each of the other canticles, the Inferno and the Purgatorio as well, letting us know as we finish each journey that our eyes should be fixed always above, that the stars are the end and goal of all of our longing. They are our telos, our end towards which we move, the true home towards which we long to return after our long exile, after our time as pilgrims, suffering, repenting, struggling ultimately, and finding our way home. And now, once you have finished reading the Commedia, all 14,233 lines of poetry, you are ready to read the Commedia. That is, you're ready to see it as a whole, to grasp the significance of those segrete cose, the secret things that Virgil promised Dante would see, and that Dante, in turn, has revealed to us.